It's that time of year. A lot of organizations are thinking about strategic planning. I think right now with COVID, other organizations are saying we had a strategic plan. Is it even worth anything anymore? Or maybe you're wondering, does it make sense to be planning right now with so much change going on all around us? So we're going to address some of those questions today. We only have 15 minutes, so we're not going to go too deep. But for those of you who are new, I'm Sarah Livieri. I'm a former executive director, author. I've worn all sorts of hats. I've been a marketer, and I'm now the proud creator of the Impact Method. And I love helping nonprofit leaders change the way they run their organizations so they can make a bigger impact without getting overwhelmed or burned out. And I also love strategy. So let's talk about it. I think the first question you really need to be asking yourself is, should we be focused on strategy right now? And I want to break this down for you a bit. Should you be focused on strategy right now? So here's how I think about it. When we say strategy, we're usually actually talking about our strategic goals, especially when we just say strategic planning. We're really thinking about what are those strategic goals we need. But there's another really important piece to strategy, and that's the action plan. Because what's the point of our goals? And there's usually tactics, right? Let's step back. When to define strategy, I define strategy as a goal or set of goals, and the tactics, those are the steps you're going to take to achieve those goals. And usually kind of maybe below tactics, we might have a really concrete action plan. Now, in traditional strategic planning, our action plan is usually something that gets developed following our strategic planning. But why do we do strategic planning? Why is there this focus on strategy? I'd love to know in the chat, what you think or what it means to you. If you're watching the replay, by all means, put what you hope to get out of strategy in the comments. Now, I'll tell you what I hear from organizations. They want to be moving forward. They want to make a bigger difference. They want to be more efficient. They want to be more effective. They want to make a bigger impact. And at the end of the day, to kind of sum it all up, they want to feel confident that they're going in the right direction, that they're making the best use of their time, their money, their energy into the world. But in my mind, that's traditional strategic planning, what kind of lives up here. We might say from this picture, that's only half the picture, but there's way more going on if you want to achieve all of those things that we just talked about. We got a comment, to use the present to learn from the past, to plan for the future. Absolutely. That's definitely something we want. But what else do we need? And here I'm going to show you. We're going to call this, I'm summing up these two pieces into actionable strategy. And now we're going to add in two more elements. So we've got our strategic planning is like half of this, right? So that's a sixth of the whole picture in order to get all those things. So what you really need are the strategy and the action plan. That's creating this middle piece here. You need an ongoing process for improvement, especially when we're in turbulent times. But the truth is, because of the internet and our ability to communicate rapidly, things change faster, and we really need to have a system always in place for adapting to change and continually improving as an organization. Then we also need, I call it our boat, right? Our modus operandi. This is how we organize our people, how we're aligned as a team. You might think of it partly as your culture, as well as how your job descriptions, how you're getting everybody on the same page to move the organization forward. Because at the end of the day, while we may have some buildings and some internet stuff going on, the primary thing that is our organization are the people who are making it happen every day. So really, strategy and that strategic planning role is just a small piece that you need. And is it the right piece for you right now? Well, there's a lot of factors, and I encourage anybody who's not sure to hop on one of my free consultation calls with me to find out if you want to have a one-on-one conversation about strategy and whether or not it's right for you. But I will say, if you are feeling stuck and you're like, oh, coronavirus changed so much, we can't move anywhere, or maybe you were stuck before. This is a scene from Austin Powers, and I think this really captures the feeling of being stuck. Well, if this is you, probably you don't need strategy right now. What you probably need are a process for improvement, which is going to help you make those small moves to get out of that stuck position. And you very likely also need to clean up your MO. What are you driving, right? If you could just hop out of here and get into a round car or a smaller car, or a little hovercraft, Austin Powers might not be in this difficult situation. So if you're stuck right now, you can stop watching. No, I'm just kidding. But if you're stuck right now, I love this. He needs a crane to get him to go in one direction. Yeah. So, right, this is an MO problem or a process problem, not a strategy problem, because all he needs to know is the general direction he's going in. And I bet all of you already have missions. You know the general direction you're going in. And so if you're in any way stuck, probably strategy is not what you need, but you do need a process for improvement, and you do need an MO that's really working well. So I want to give you a few tips, though, because we said we were going to talk about strategy, is how to really get that strategy part right. And then I'm going to tell you, if you want to get all three things, your process of improvement, your actionable strategy, and your MO right, I'm going to tell you how to do that too. But here, I have three tips. Two are here. One's on the next slide because it's a little more involved. Nothing clarifies a goal like trying to achieve it. Right? I think one area we go wrong in traditional strategic planning is we spend all this time trying to figure out what is the right goal for our organization, and getting it just right. Well, there's another way to get it just right, which is create it, write it down, start executing on that goal, start trying to make it come true, and then come back in a couple months and refine the goal, because there is absolutely nothing like trying to work on that goal to give you that clarity you need. You've got to get your skin in the game, and then you'll start having aha moments, and they will come repeatedly, not just after one iteration, but repeated iterations. My next tip is that your strategy should address your impact and your operations. Now, I know not every consultant might agree with me on this, but this is how I see it. So your mission, that's the ultimate impact you're trying to make. That's your guiding star. It's where you're headed. You may never get there because you might have a mission impossible, but that's okay. You're going to die trying. So your mission is where you're trying to go. And then your strategy is your plan of how you're going to get there, right? So if we're going to, let's say we're going to the North Pole, right? This is a really mission impossible destination. Well, part of what you have to focus on is your route, right? That's this part of your strategy that's focusing on your impact. How do we do that? Are we going in a straight line? Are we going through the ocean? Are we going over mountains? And the other part of your plan needs to address what kind of vehicle you're going to take to get there. Are you taking a llama? Are you in a car? Are you in a boat? Is it like a little raft if it's a boat? Is it a big metal honker that can cut through ice, right? If we think of the famous Scott and Amundsen competition, right? They chose different types of vehicles for getting there, and that made all the difference. So you have to be mindful of your vehicle of transportation, if you will, and that is your operations, the way you function, your MO and your process of improvement. That is how you move through the world. That is your vehicle. And then where you're going, those are your goals around making an impact. And if you don't address your route as well as your vehicle, you're going to find yourself either with a plan that you can't execute or an awesome vehicle and nowhere specific to go. My third tip is that the truth to me is that finding the goals is really easy. In fact, I could probably get on the phone with most executive directors, and in 30 to 45 minutes, we'd have roughly the right goals for the organization. No need for lots of meetings and long discussions. They'd probably come out pretty readily from anybody who's doing the day-to-day work of overseeing the whole organization. The hard part in strategy, and to make it a great strategy, is to find the right tactics, find the right activities that are really going to make a big impact. I'm talking about optimized or leveraged activities, things that are going to have a huge return for the minimalist input that we put in. So I've got a few tips here. And first is you can use a SWOT exercise. That's where you identify your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is super Googleable, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but simply think about that goal, run a SWOT analysis thinking about that goal, and see if you have any aha moments about a path in, right? You're looking for a way to achieve that goal that is going to get the biggest result for the least amount of effort. Another way is to get an expert, right? Experts are experts really in tactics, right? They've done it before, they've seen it before, they just have a bigger toolkit in their head because they specialize in this one particular area. And a third tip I have for you is to think about finding a new perspective. You might have a really specific perspective on this goal and how it might be achieved. You might be stuck in the world of best practices, and everybody's suffering from a similar problem. But look outside the nonprofit industry. Look outside the day-to-day of your nonprofit's area of expertise. Look at another industry. What can you learn from them? What can your organization learn from the men's shave club, right? Think about, step way back, take that 10,000 foot view on your goal and say, what is the context of this goal? What kind of thing is it at its essence? And then see if you can find somebody else who has that similar type of thing. There's a famous for-profit consultant who specializes in finding solutions to one industry that another industry has already solved. Or he likes to say that your biggest problem is another company's bigger problem, and you can actually turn your problem into their solution. So I know this is really general because the tactics get into the specifics of your organization and exactly the goals you're trying to achieve and what kinds of things that you have to work with: money, team, other resources, relationships. And the tactics is where the magic happens. And just like there's nothing that clarifies a goal like trying to achieve it, there's nothing to tell you whether or not a tactic is a good idea than trying it. So your general approach should be, let's figure out several tactics to try all at once, things that don't take a lot to invest. And we're going to do a spattering of experiments. I want you to do multiple experiments at the same time. Then when one or two of those experiments show some promise, you're going to lean in and do a little more in that direction. And then after that, you're probably going to be ready to hone in on the few select tactics that really worked. But if you just take the single daisy chain iteration approach from the beginning, you might have missed something brilliant because you didn't try multiple things to begin with. So broad experiments, run several at a time, then hone in on the few that showed promise, and then really lean in to those few tactics that were the most effective and efficient, and then invest in doing those things. So those are my tips for finding tactics. And I want to tell everybody quickly, and I have a question here. What do you look at cost for implementation? That's a great question. I'm going to come and answer some of these more at length in the Q&A. For those of you watching the recording, I hope you'll show up next time live, and we can get into some specifics for your organizations in just a moment. Here are some things you can skip in your strategic planning process. And this might sound like a big shocker to some, but stakeholder interviews. And let me tell you why. You should already know what your stakeholders think about your organization, your donors, the people you serve. This should be the day-to-day work of your organization. This should be part of your operations. Now, you might need to analyze the data in a new way, but if you don't already have a regular process or practice of checking in with the people you're serving to make sure that what you're doing is the best fit, or the donors you're reaching out to make sure that you have the right fit there aren't donors you couldn't be reaching somewhere else, then you have a capacity problem, not a strategy problem. And the strategy fix is to change your ship, change your boat, to get something that includes gathering this data on a regular basis. Another thing you can skip is making a fancy document. The most important thing for your strategy document is that it's easy to share and easy to edit, because I want you to be changing it and refining it regularly and repeatedly. And another thing you can kind of half skip really is goals that you don't have the capacity to start working on. I'm all for writing these goals down, but don't go too deep if you have to do some other things first. Those need your attention. Those are your stepping stones, and stepping stones build momentum. So give most of your energy to the goals that you can start achieving right away, and just let your bigger goals that you can't start working on be kind of pinned as goals for the future. So for those of you who want to not just do an actionable strategy, but want to have the full process of improvement, actionable strategy, and MO, that's what I created the impact method for. And it'll always be available for you, but I have an opportunity for those of you who want to dive into the impact method and get a full year of support for your nonprofit as you do it, and get 40% off of the regular price. I am running a special opportunity for organizations to do a case study program with you, which means we'll be working in partnership. You'll be doing one of my regular year-long programs, the Thrive program, and I'll be researching you as you go through the program as I document more about the impacts of the impact method, right? Because I am following the impact method myself and focused on measuring PivotGround's outcomes and impact on the world. So if you'd like to partner with me in this way, I'd welcome you to have a call. Make sure you mention in the notes that you are interested in the case study program. And as part of this, I'm offering the program at 40% off. So I'm going to turn off the recording and we're going to answer some specific questions.